My name is Pickett, if you don't know me. I'm here with Julien, Tanja, Brandmayr, Jan-Nahuel, Taro, Knopp, Cajaraville, and Gisle Froysland somewhere, and Romain, Papion, as part of Mediamesse, which is situated in the Toolkit of Care. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what this project is. It's an international action which is bringing together different organisations from countries around Europe, but not just, also beyond Europe. It's part of it's a cost-funded project, which is a European cooperation in science and technology that basically helps fund network activities such as this to increase transdisciplinary research in different areas. So the Toolkit of Care is formed to make a critical network of care, particularly to look at how that can be implemented or change the way we think about electronic arts, media arts. So the main aim is to produce a well-formulated and integrated toolkit of care, which would comprise of articles, prototypes, audio-visual documentation, technical manuals, theoretical analysis, and data. The idea is that this could act as a model of how to successfully share knowledge and expertise across different geographical regions and social groups. The Toolkit of Care focuses on ethical, aesthetic and cultural dimensions of care, inviting artists to integrate sustainability and inclusivity into their work, trying to bridge gaps between innovation and ethical responsibility, and provide a framework to rethink the role of media art in addressing global challenges. So, aesthetics of care. Basically, the idea is to sort of, I mean, this is a theory that is coming out of the Toolkit of Care about intertwining sensory experiences with ethical imperatives in media arts as an approach to artistic practices that prioritize responsibility towards individuals, communities and the planet by valuing aesthetic understanding where art practices address critical ethical concerns that can resonate also emotionally and practically. So basically the Toolkit of Care has many different aspects because we talk about what is care, how we think about care and the different very areas of care that we might address. So there's self-care, obviously. Vectors of care encompass diverse dimensions and each pivotal in media arts. So self-care enables personal identity exploration, care for others, could focus on community bonds and inclusivity, but also more than human, planetary care, calling upon us to think about the way our work is used as a medium for ecological activism, mainly maintaining life, radical repairs, and contributing to sustainability through creativity. So, I mean, there's many different projects that might focus on different aspects of how we think about care, but, I mean, or not, also, but not always at once. So this sort of brings us to ethics of care. Anything to add anything? Ethics of care in art, which looks at how artists actively respond to societal and cultural changes, or not. Particularly, well, with the particularity of media arts and with its technological narrative potential and how the medium can convey critical empathy and engage all audiences ethically, which practices can be originally reimagined, and how care can be integrated into the creative process. There are then so many aspects of this word care that there's also subdisciplines in this project where you have art that's reflecting on the intersections of societal needs, so like health care in art, how healthcare and art can serve therapeutic purposes, while accessibility can push for inclusivity, care and radical politics, utopias, socialism, conceptualising these notions of care through curatorial practices is another area that's being researched through this project in different ways. And then also, which leads us also to the different radical politics in art that explore power to challenge societal norms and inspire change, engaging with political narratives, how critical discourses, as well as envisioning imagining utopias. Imagining future utopias, so during times of these crises and social upheavals, art could be a unifying force. It could influence also policy making, advocate for better, kinder, more equal, more tolerant and sustainable futures. So there's quite a few projects also that look at different areas of that. This project here is on decolonialising board game. It's been created in Cyprus. There was also data, AI black boxes, discussions and theories, as well as how politics and policy was discussed at ICEA in Paris last year. Was it last year or before? For the toolkit, the future toolkit of care is going to prioritise inclusivity, sustainability. It imagines expanding access to marginalised regions and communities, so a sort of care for off-centres, or what's written here is weak countries, or non-urban territories, or non-major art centres. So it's also about the global south as well, giving voice to people from areas or underprivileged spaces, females, queer, non-binary, non-Western, as well as thinking about how care for radical thinkers and tinkerers should be also engaged with experimental arts, DIY, do it with others, speculative practices, critical design, media, archaeology, etc. So also preserving the media through digital archives and aiming to support emerging artists and artists at all stages of their career to create equitable and lasting impacts. So it's a massive project that has got many different strands going on. And in this project, because it's about building a network, it is open also for anyone to get involved with the network and join any working groups that they're also interested in. So there's a sort of structure, there's a website, and there are these 4 working groups that enable collaboration and dissemination of these different projects that come out of those spaces, sharing insights, preserving works, advancing archiving methods, analysing care's broader implication. These groups are basically how the toolkit is, the ecosystem of the toolkit is being put together. And finally, if you want to get involved, you can go to toolkitofcare.com. If you have any questions, also. I was just saying, I'm presenting this on behalf of Toolkit of Care, I'm not Toolkit of Care.
Well, after is in the Mediamesse, which is Overs and Plus, is presented within this framework. So now we could also present the Mediamesse, the project. Gisle, you could come now.
I'm just a technician.
channel. So it's a project that we started in Nantes a couple of years ago. And it was for an anniversary of a place we were part of called La Fabrique. And then the idea was to propose a project that will develop like different crossing on the question of media, and also playing with this notion of messiness and chaos or entropy, and in relation to MESSe, sort of like religious, but kind of transforming that into a like anti-religious, or in relation to the media as the speech being given to everyone, sort of a view on the world that goes through the media channel. The idea was to combine, invite 4 different labs together and think and research the project and how to work together on this issue, and to present a performance during this event. So there was like the issue of the questions that are being raised, how we work together, the different relations of each lab to art creation tools, and the question of media art, and so on. And then the question is how we render some of these questions and this debate we were having, and then research the process into a form, and what is this form. And then I think this form is still in research, which is interesting, because it's not a final form. And I think we went from Nantes, and we had some sort of a sub-Mediamesse in Linz, and somewhere else? Here. And here? But here is not, it was, yeah, anyway. So I think, yeah, so we're still in process of developing this project, and we need more time to think about what we're trying to achieve with this. So it's also a form of debrief of yesterday we could have. Anyway, Jenny and I, we're part of APO 33. We initiated the project, but this project is also sort of doing together, so it doesn't belong only to us. But it could be reappropriated by the other member of the group, and they could propose a framework to it. APO 33 it's in Nantes, and it's a lab, artistic collective that works on different issues about sound art, digital art, and free software. We also have a festival called Piksel. We're trying to make it survive. I think we talk about festival after. Anyway, Tanja.
Thanks. Maybe I continue also here on the Mediamesse of yesterday, and also in Nantes, and what maybe a little bit about what Stadtwerkstatt is. So the 3 of us come from Linz, from Stadtwerkstatt. We have a very long history of media arts and early media arts existing since 1979, and yeah, maybe Stadtwerkstatt represents history of media arts, but also very resistant part of media art over these years. Also, we had Jenny opened the new art context subsite, because Stadtwerkstatt, when you go back to the start page, you can see that Stadtwerkstatt runs a lot of actions. So we have actually in Linz, we are probably most known for our club and music scene, also for social life and nightlife. We have around 100 concerts per year normally, and this is club program, a mixture of innovative sound and concert scene, but also partying a lot. We have a bar, which is Café Strom, which was also a very important part from the early days as the social part of subcultural scenes. And it's still till now, it gathers a lot of young people, especially going out and they get curious what happens here and in music scene, but also in art scene. So Stadtwerkstatt does also run a newspaper, of course, print and online version for also, I think, 30 years or so. And maybe it's one aspect that connects us all, and all of you, of course, as a member of a festival like this, is the critical part of looking at society, technology, art, media art, also the critical aspects of producing art in maybe more institutionalized art world. So it's also important to be critical in this aspect, what art means in our context and also in a critical way. Yeah, Stadtwerkstatt, I come back to this new art context subsite. Maybe, yeah, this is one of our, let's say, departments. Actually, a department is not more than 2 or 3 people.
It's often the same people in different departments.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, per project we will get more, and also in the newspaper we have a lot of writers and so on. But the new art context department, we created a term which is called art after new media, but is some kind of variation of post-media art, you know, all these terms. Yeah, this is a subsite. We have also an English version. You can scroll through or take a look for yourself later. What is maybe an interesting aspect of Stadtwerkstatt, that we are in direct neighborhood to Ars Electronica. What is, you know, all Ars Electronica, which is a big player, and we are the small neighbor. And this is quite interesting. Yeah, coexistence, cooperation also has over the years had a lot of friction also, and all ups and downs, you can imagine. And yeah, for us it's interesting to see how Stadtwerkstatt works every year in cooperation and parallel to Ars Electronica Festival, because we also do a format, art format in cooperation and parallel with Ars Electronica. And the very early cooperation, I think the first one was 1983 or 1984 maybe. And yeah, what is interesting for me or for us all as we run the festival is that really, really many people visit us and really, yeah, they experience us where the art, yeah, somehow, how should I say it? We hear it very often, this is the place to be, and here they can experience the art they expected as a big festival. Because I think we still have this critical, yeah, Jenny talked a lot about the care aspect, and is of course a term that is very important, and in the core it's the main topic maybe, but also I think it's quite interesting to connect the care aspect and the critical aspect, because I think we have really to be critical to come to a caring aspect. That's for me it's a very interesting thing to connect, and it's necessary to connect. Yeah, to the maybe to the performance. I give it to you later. Maybe to the performance yesterday. The three of us connected audio part, the visual part, and the performative part. We worked with archive themes, very technique, almost in a, maybe when you saw it, you know, it's a lot of old technique. Maybe it's a little bit, it has even a little nostalgia aspect or something. I did a performative part, and yeah, for me it was a little bit doing a ritual with this whole mess we are all in, doing a ritual which is somehow located in the future, working with water and with some, this ritual aspects. We are doing something what the meaning is not clear now, but maybe in the future it has a meaning. So it's a little, the meaning is addressed in a future we do not know. With the mess, with some kind of rest mess we are in.
Hello, my name is Jan. I'm, as you said, also from Stadtwerkstatt in Linz. I feel like the important, like about yesterday, the important stuff, like for me personally also, is like this working with a lot of archive stuff, like all I did the video part, all the videos, or most of the videos are part of the rich TV history of Stadtwerkstatt. And the whole Mediamesse, as we got also invited at Stadtwerkstatt, and it also there's like this exchange part for us, also as houses, as different associations. I think there is, for me, is a lot of this caring also inside, because every time we do something like this, it includes talking about what is going on at your place, what's going on at our place, what's going on at Piksel here. And I experience it as something that is always very caring in the end, you know, like also the exchange and getting into the mood of doing something together. I feel like, especially the first time where we had more time, we spent like, I think 3 days before we started doing it, was especially very caring. And yeah. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, caring depends also on a critical mass. It's not only playing with words. To have a significant critical mass needs a critical mass, and the critical mass it's what we try to establish through this media mass, critical media mass. Through chaos. There is no linear way to achieve solutions for problems that we just start to face, or just start to get confronted with the impact of what's going on. How will it continue? How do we want to continue? And of course, again, it's a lot about caring, taking care of each other, and as we are trying not to be hierarchical structures, there is no chief. So of course, this involves or incorporates the integral part of it. Consequence is the mess. Well, a little bit chaotic.
What is
Maite? Gisle?
About Piksel? Bueno, about Piksel, most of the people that is here you already know. Well, Piksel is a festival for electronic art and technological freedom. is 20 years already here in the city of Bergen. And well, during all this time, many artists have been here. So this is a kind of network, no? That is well, it's also this through that network you also see, for example, the meaning of care, no? Because, for example, I think the artists that are working specifically with free libre technologies, they have maybe a different approach to life in general, no? I will say it's not only. I mean, it's somehow painting everything a bit, no? And with the Mediamesse thing, I like this idea, for example, of recycling also, of caring as recycling, like all of a sudden using old and new technologies and like mixing everything. I like this chaotic word that you said before too, like in a chaos that is very much like life is now, no? Or I feel like that, like everything is chaotic, nothing lasts forever, no? And then everything, I mean, when you think that you have achieved something, then you have not. And then it's like, on this actually is also like circular, no? And all this, bueno, and another thing, I mean, this is what I like about Mediamesse. And I think, for example, for the next time, I would like to work more together, you know? More, maybe we have to abandon, well, not abandon, but put it in a different way, this thing that each one is doing their thing for a while. No, we have to be more to molest us more, you know? Like, I like it yesterday when Gisle was putting this, because he didn't get that it so separated, no? Everything. And then I like it, this idea. It's like, okay, why not I just go there and take the HDMI and put it in my... So what is going to happen if we are somehow, I mean, no? Like challenging each other, no? Because maybe another thing about caring is like, okay, it's very nice to think about caring, but what if nobody cares, no? Then you have to demand to get care. No, that this is a different way of, maybe that could be the Mediamesse, no? Like I'm demanding care. Now I want the HDMI, no? Because I want to, and then maybe then you say, no, give it to me. Bueno, but let's see how we care, you know? Let's see how through, maybe not the confrontation, I'm not saying that, but maybe to come from a situation that is not so idealistic, because all the time in this discourse about caring, it's really nice, the people that is talking about caring. But where is the care, no? I mean, how do you demand care, no? That this is, for example, in the feminist economies, no? They are, why... I mean, they are demanding care, no? Like, hey, care about this. So, and then it's very good, because then you have to find strategies to explain things that, for me, maybe it's very obvious, but for the other, no. That is the one I am demanding care, you know? So all these things, I think the Mediamesse in that sense is, it could be interesting, no? To be challenging us a bit more with that. And yeah.
I think you raised a lot of really good points, and one of the things there was a couple of things I think I wanted to maybe explain a little bit. Like the Mediamesse is conceived as a do it with others project that happen with the labs, because well, because we have a lot of possibilities to think about working collectively when we're already working collectively amongst ourselves, but also within the network that we have. And I think today, more than ever, it's especially important that we have these spaces where we can come together as artists, as labs, as groups, and exchange and meet and be together. Because there's always this sort of, I think there's a few things, but I'll finish with Mediamesse. So it was conceived as a DIWO project, and in that it entails a lot of discussion and negotiation and non-hierarchical things, and also random elements that happen and come in and out. And yesterday was interesting because there was there were pre-discussions to the performance, and then there was a sort of score of how to perform that was created, and then not respected. Not entirely respected. So, but this also created something quite interesting and different from maybe what we preconceived, and allowed more improvisation and other elements of care to come in between people, the way people negotiate things not working, or people not understanding quite where we are in the performance. So that's interesting. But on the feminist thing, yes, I mean, there's the famous quote of Joan Tronto and I'm going to say the wrong name, somebody Fisher, about us caring for ourselves, those around us, and the environment. I can't quote the thing properly. It sort of makes me think that, there's this idea of being an individual, but this individuality is a complete myth. We're actually, all of us, from the day we're born, reliant on other people's care, or we would not be here today. And everything that we have learned has been through the care and the connection and doing things with others. So this sort of like a capitalist individualism, isolation of the individual as the thing on their own to become something. I think this is sort of something that is pushed away a lot in the open source community already, with this with the concepts of sharing the code and sharing ideas and having this open exchange. And that's why these places are important, to have more of those projects that remind us that we're not individuals, but we are together and we are a community.
I think there's also a fourth member, the group that is not represented right now because they had to go early. But it's MADLab in Cyprus, and MADLab is more it's a lab within the Cyprus University of Technology. So it's a more of an institutional part of the group, which is also good because you also bring another relation in this project. Now I will react on a few things. So just MADLab is also leading the project of Toolkitofcare within the cost, so that's important to say. So because they're also sort of an engine for crossing research and crossing labs, and so it's also important what they're doing. So the people we had yesterday in the group were actually students from Marinos Kuchamakaliskin, which is the main actor of the is one of the representatives of the lab that is also working with us in Nantes. He's over there with the beard.
At Cyprus University of Technology.
Yeah. What did I say? Okay. Anyway, the other things I want to say is what's important in the group is there's a large cultural representations enough to counteract each other and then challenge. So and this is why the performance what happened yesterday was interesting for that reason, between what is common, what is individualist, and what is represented from the group, and how there is discussions about it within the group. but also during the performance. So, so I think it's what happened yesterday was important in the sense of question the meaning of being together, whether we have to establish some boundaries where people could exist their performance, their time, their relations to the stage or to the technology, and versus the debate and the tensions of not respecting those boundaries, and then also the challenge of the media and the performative questions that we push forward. So I had a love. I thought it was funny. This relation, and I think it's also this cultural mashup that is at stake. Is this question of borders and separation in a society that is actually trying to separate, to continue to push forward projects that mix and where people are not agree, caring, but also not caring, but in the sense that what you say is like sometimes not caring. The switch between caring and not caring is also important, because if we overcare, we also making dependence, and then you have to allow also independence. And then if you care all the time of everything the other do, you could also end up you'll also be in the oppression, because you're trying to somehow. You could also end up purifying. I've decided to purify things to care, and that is also a danger. So those limits needs to be questioned all the time, because it can't be something it's also different from where you're from, where you're coming from, how the culture you've been growing at, and then the context. So all of that is always challenged all the time. It needs to be challenged.
Well, just to say that I like very much the word negotiation, because I think caring is a negotiation all the time. Because, I mean, when we say care, no, to take care, it's like it's you taking care, but I think it has to be a negotiation in the environment all the time. I mean, with the people that you are negotiating, no, or now with the plants, with the, and in the non-human things. But it's a negotiation, it's all the time. Actually, I mean, it's nice to call it care, but we should think, maybe point, toolkit of negotiation.
I just want to continue on this idea that this is part of the Mediamesse is part of an idea of researching, and I think when you say we should spend more time negotiating on about what we're going to do together, it's very important. And the space of how you allow yourself to do this is precious, because we're living in a society where it's always speed. We have always to manage different things, and then the taking the time of the process of negotiations and understanding where we're going to go together, it's absolutely essential and needs to be pushed forward.
I think it depends a bit of what we want to do in the future, because we could also like set up a situation where we don't talk about, and just as you said before, forcefully put us in the situation that we have to negotiate in the act of doing the Mediamesse, and make the negotiation part of the mess, and not put it before, because then in the end you also, as you said, we could overcare and make it a too polished, too structural thing that doesn't include the negotiation part in the actual mess.
Was anybody there yesterday for the? Did anybody see the Mediamesse yesterday? I'm wondering how it came across also from a perspective of the audience. If it seemed negotiated or polished or chaos.
I noticed this thing that you were mentioning of not entirely following the plan, but I wasn't sure as if it was a performance or it was really a negotiation happening. But yeah, as I guess I agree with Maite that it might have been too much split into individual performances. It felt a bit like it could have been as well like 4 different performances.
Yeah, thank you. I had a bunch of thoughts and now I'm gonna try and remember them. But yeah, I think for me it's like the most exciting moments where you could see that it's not only that the plan is going, but that you're actively like reconfiguring essentially. It's very interesting. It was strange, but you had the like mouthpiece mic, and it was like it somehow acted as punctuation, or like you could, or at least for me, it's like I was gaining back the kind of track because it was a human voice or like human laughter, which kind of like punctuates things in a negotiation. Like, I mean, it can only like, I just remember moments of laughter and like it can only get so tense and then there's laughter doing something. So I think it's just like kind of maybe an interesting question of like, you know, aesthetics of laughter and humor and, you know, how do you like, that's something that you negotiate as well. It's like, how does humor invade it and what does it do when it's there? And do you kind of like push it down in order to gain back the track of the performance and the seriousness of something that's been prepared? You know, and how like, or does it kind of leak? So yeah, so the leaking was great. I thought that was like, yeah, it was the most exciting, like almost like the most exciting when it comes back. And also it's like the 30 last minutes, that's hilarious. And then the 30 minutes were kind of not ending. Like there was a kind of final moment where it's like, where do you end it? You can't end it because you're not seeing each other because one person is like, we're gonna end it, and then the other person sees it. So it's like, it felt like almost like unavoidable. Like I mean, of course, now that I've seen it, like I can't imagine it without those aspects. Like it's kind of like had to happen. But yeah, I think the other thing is about kind of like maybe politics of risk, or like when I think of, I mean, I also do things like this, and I think it's more like history of improvisation, like in theater. Like I was working with an actress, and in the script there were parts that were meant to be improvised, and when we came together, I was like, so maybe we don't prepare for it, and then her response was like, we're gonna rehearse as much as we can, and then the kind of improvisation happens post that. Like she wasn't gonna kind of like put herself at risk of not having rehearsed, and then have the space to improvise after having rehearsed. So that's like a theater response. So I mean, when I heard it at the time, I was like, okay, that's a very particular way of thinking of improvisation and what it means to improvise. Then yeah, but like another thing was about this risk, where like if it's a pre-prepared performance, but it's aiming at like politics of care and negotiation. But if it's a pre-prepared performance, there's like politics of that. There's like resource that's been put in, and you know, and something is being delivered in its final form. And so the risk is very low, right, in a way. Like, of course, the risk is always there. But I think, and like when I either do something similar or we see something similar, I'm like, well, if you're not really, like, it's hard for me to kind of tag along fully with the idea of kind of negotiation or care if the risk is only performative. Like if it's always, you know, if you can't like feel that there's something at risk, at least the structure of the performance is at risk, to then be kind of like upkept. So I thought that was great, that like you could see that it was kept together by effort, like active, effort. Yeah, anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you for this, and that makes me think about what happened during our part. After, there's also this thinking about the parts versus the whole together. It's good that you linked to the improvisations and the improvisation in theater, because I also had experience in improvisation in theater, and I said, let's improvise. It's never improvised. We have to rehearse the improvisations. But in improvised music, it's more a bit open, but there's always something about the structure anyway at some point. But what happened during our performance with the dog's face is that Romain, he brought an unexpected chaos that was very interesting in the structure that we kind of rehearsed by programming a clock on Python, and this clock was moving forwards in time. It's genius. So what happened is that the old structure we made was completely destroyed. It was, I would say, it was when it happened. You wonder, and you wonder what's going on, because it's not, the structure is completely exploded, and then at the end, and we chat, and it's like, oh yeah, I think it's because I made this clock, but it moved faster in time, because it's like, we play 35 minutes. I say, no, we play 20. And then, so everything was moved forward. And I think, retrospectively, talking about this and what happened and in the questions that has been raised here, I think it's brilliant to have a structure that you could somehow explode. Or what happened with Gisle, that came and changed our relations, and he didn't need a clock. He was just out of time clock, I think it's great, and so I think it's something maybe that sounds like a failure, but it's actually something to consider, to think about in detail.
Hello. Justement, in fact, with this media, like a computer as a media, it's ironic and paradoxal, because I wanted to be more structured, to have a precise structure. So I just prepared this clock, but I did miss that he wasn't precise, like he was. I don't know why he just fake time, or he just move too fast. So that's the ironic part of it. So the media that's supposed to structure the part destroyed it as in the mess.
Taro, you yesterday talked about that we need some kind of like a button in the middle that turns everything off. So to have a point, because I was looking around. Should we continue? Should we stop? Well, trying to maybe with the visuals signalize, didn't work, and then Taro said, "There's no way to stop." But because you look at one person, it's like, okay, we stop, and then you go, no, wait.
But you all had so many buttons.
Yeah.
But wanting the one button is really dangerous thought.
But this is the discussions is about, because the project is about the Mediamesse. So how you create the mess without too much structurating it, and care for the mess. But and that's precisely probably the research. If we meet, is not necessarily to fix the structure, but it's about testing ideas, or you don't even have to practice. You could just debate like this, and then things would come to minds afterwards about what you've been doing, like how you you could structure things and have moving clocks or different clocks, but it's also good that when things happen and you don't expect it, and why what you bringing out of that? How does it feed the project? You know, and this is probably some of the question we could raise is how you evaluate these risks, the negotiation, and how you continue to feed the project with this, and continue to make it like a possible mess, interacting almost. You know, things should be like. Like if the button, for example, should not be a button that stops, a button that multiply things or change chaotically some electrical, programs or something that you didn't expect. You know, the button should be a random button almost. Yeah, case button.
A shutdown button that sometimes shuts off and sometimes explodes.
Yeah, you don't know. You know, it's like Russian roulette. Yeah, I mean.
Taking care is also. So taking care is also maybe how do you adapt to the mess when it happens, and how you always take care of the other, yourself and stuff. Maybe. In front of the mess, in front of how do you say the unknown, maybe.
In fact, there were also some of the ideas that we wanted to develop happen. I mean, I don't know if you realize, but we were also negotiating this idea of maintenance at some point.
Oh, yeah, so prior to the Mediamesse, there was a discussion about whether we would think about maintenance as care in the performance, but it was dropped for other things. But then in the actual performance, there was a situation of maintenance that you might have noticed happening. Which could almost have become part of the performance itself, I think.
Yes, but this is the point we could. I mean, I'm sure there's some others that we could point and then think about. And as there's the moving forward clocks. There is and also bringing people that are out of the group is also that like it's also interesting because they bring this unpredictable aspect. So, for example, the people from Art Lab, they had a problem because she didn't come to rehearse too much, and then the stuff didn't work, and then there were all maintenance during the performance, and it was like also ambiguous because we were like trying to figure out the cable, and then after that I asked you could use my computer, and then she was entering emails, but then there was French keyboard, so she couldn't enter, and then we spent 5 minutes or something or 10 minutes, you know, trying to fix the performance, and then the cable changing, and then Dimitra, she was doing the sound, and then she was looking at us, and then we were like, I was trying to fix, you know, and she's like, well, I'd stop, and then there's all this thing about how do you point those things, and how you feel that the external implication of other people that you haven't somehow worked yet with is uncomfortable because you don't know them and you don't know what's going to happen, but somehow it creates something anthropic in the project. I think it's interesting, but maybe there's other aspect in the performance. And
the responsibility to care.
Yeah, for me, this aspect of a mess has maybe, for me now, two sides. This not only creating a mess, but more living in a mess we are all in. So I come back to the whole things we all criticize the whole time. But when I listened to you now, I also came. It also came to my mind this aspect of working in a subcultural scene, which is, typically with not so many rules or not so big hierarchy. And when I worked on Stadtwerkstatt archive, for example, we also had this topic of Stadtwerkstatt from feminist aspects, and what it meant to have situation in the late 70s or early 80s, or also even later on, that there were not so many rules how men, women deal with another, or also this whole working and living situation. Stadtwerkstatt in the first 10 years was art and living, this whole left development of working at the space where also live and the relationships and so on. And living and working in a space with less hierarchy and less structure does not mean that there are no rules. The rules create themselves, and the rules which create themselves are very often rules that are represented in society in a very normal way. So it's very funny to see, it's not really funny, but to see how relationships between men and women were represented in Stadtwerkstatt at a place which was subversive and against the whole time. But still it has some conformal narratives also. And maybe this is an important aspect of care, to try to think about rules that are not so conscious. Do you know what I mean? These rules which came in non-hierarchically or not so structured situations. So that's for me when creating a mess, and it's a question, how do we work with a situation which is not so strongly structured. There are rules. Whenever people work together, there are rules. you even if they are not been told.
Yeah, it's gone. It's like we're debating, so it's open.
Yeah. I think like maybe I'm resonating with what you are saying, and all the time like there's this word that keeps on my mind about care that I think it was not mentioned, but I think like in order to care, like you need also consent. And I think it's also like, even if it's something chaotic, even if it's something experimental, one thing that needs to keep in a group in order to everyone try to feel comfortable and safe also, because this is also another word that I think is also interesting about care, how to create a safe space where everyone feels comfortable for talking, for saying, for interacting. Is about consent, basically. And I think in relation to consent, then it's important to communicate the needs, or what do you want as a group, as a person, individual, like in this performance. But I mean, in the end, like this is something that is applying for every kind of human relationship. But well, you also said it in your slides. I think I was just thinking about these aspects. I don't know who wants to continue.
Yes, And in terms of consent, we were evoking the aspect of accepting to be care also. Maybe is that what you mentioned also, and to be safe is kind of ways of vigilance also, but it's like we only humans, so maybe sometimes in front of a mess we could react like don't know, depends of each one. So that is also take care of what's your emotional state or maybe, and yes. So that's why just to maybe to add about it.
Maite, non-consent?
I mean, that comes back to the discussion that what you push forward, because my understanding of the station that you proposed, Tanja, and Stadwerkstadt in general, was to give some space, some safe space where each group that are used to work together for other projects, or have also a moment of where they already negotiate together, and then they feel like it's a safe space. And when we put all together, all four groups, it's somehow putting it more in danger. Even if it's still a safe space, it's still another level of negotiation that we have less time to work on, because we live on different parts of the world. And so therefore, that's, I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but for me, it's a discussion between this. It can't be one or another all the time. I agree, and it needs to be negotiated. But this notion of safe space, I mean, is that also what you somehow, when you brought the station, is it also that notion that is behind, or what do you think about this?
What? Station and what do you mean with station?
Yeah, I think in the first Mediamesse, Stadwerkstatt proposed that we had 4 stations, like in the performance, so that there was this space to sort of bring ideas of what each group had been working on in their main artistic practices anyway, and be able to show and introduce those ideas to each other. So, I mean, when you're working with people that you don't usually work with, you need to sort of understand what they're doing before you can kind of maybe negotiate some other ways that you might intervene or create something else from it. And I think that's where the idea of having these spaces to, at first, everybody be able to express themselves.
I think I understand the question now. Yeah, the station, maybe it's some kind of term, yeah, which is not so fixed, but I think beginning with a situation like stations or whatever is a way to get to a process of negotiation. It's in my understanding, it's better to start with the plan and changing it the whole time than to have no plan. But I also agree it would be a nice experiment to have no plan together. I'm not so convinced that it works, because it's maybe it sounds nice, but when you have no plan, for example, just to think because it starts with the question, what material do we use with no plan? It's only one aspect, or how many people do come with no plan. No plan does not save us. So maybe, coming back to this question with the stations, yeah, there are some kind of construction which could help a group to start somewhere. Also in order to when you mentioned it also, that we met with almost no preparation, or no preparation is maybe wrong, because we are all experienced with what we do in with different contexts, and we know about the context of each other. So also this is something which came in a situation, not only us as single persons, but a lot of contexts came in. So yeah, in my understanding, it's good to create at some kind of common landscape or point or somewhere together. That means also that you can negotiate and change everything every time. Yeah.
Also, I think the idea from the 4 stations was born a bit in like at the first time, where we also had some stuff prepared, and as you are also loud, and we needed some quiet moments. I mean, I think it's quite telling that yesterday when we said, we play all together, it was like, you know, and there was no silent moment in the playing together. And I think if we would do something like say, okay, we play together, we would much more have to talk about that. We need quiet times too, like in every discussion you have people expressing differently, so you need some time where quieter people also have time to talk and start at a much lower point than we do when we meet. And so I think this letting space for every table in the beginning is a workaround around this, because of course we could do the last half hour for 2 hours, but then a lot of the expressions would fall out.
Yeah, when I was thinking this common landscape that you were talking, maybe, for example, one thing that could be, like an idea, is also maybe to exchange for example, I don't play with Gisle, I play with you, or you play with Tanja. So then for that, the toolkit of care will be, for example, like, okay, we all have like the common landscape, let's say, is like we are all having, I don't know, a microcontroller, one, that is, we all have. So if I go to play with him, at least I know that this microcontroller, I know how to, or synthesizer, no? I know how to play with it. You know, like we can have a kit of minimum thing that we can all play more or less, no? Each group, if we are 4 labs, pues, but then we exchange the people. You know, then that, because we meet all the time, like so little, 3 days, is like, so you have to do something in 3 days with another person, because if we think about it as a toolkit, no? A toolkit is something that if you use it, it's like putting the basis for something, no? That if this can be used for this. And it will be, then a toolkit of care is like, that is connected also with the safe place, no? It's like, okay, if you use this toolkit, you are safe, no? Or you are, or it will be, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe that could be a different way of negotiating, no? I mean, I think this probably in theater they have done, you know, like do whatever that's the one that is next to you, no? Things like that. This kind of, but we can do but with the MESSe and with the media, no? Maybe.
I like the idea that people start with some kind of common toolkit that could be moved around or exchanged. But when we talk about safe space, it made me think about what you were talking about, risk. Yeah. And I think if we think too much about being safe, we'll never leave the house, you know, so we'll never try anything new. And so I think when we work together and also exchange, and maybe we don't necessarily know all the different objects and ways to perform that we might encounter, we put ourselves at risk, and that risk creates differences and variations that we might not otherwise consider.
Yeah. I mean, it would be I think it would be much more mess if we do this same thing. I was thinking about the performance yesterday, that was very cool. French. But this will not happen.
French French.
The aggressive dogs.
No, but I like it. I like it.
Yeah, just thought like in connection to this and also safe space. Like I was mentioning it earlier in the talk. They like. So I used to be a complete metalhead. I still listen to metal, and like metal concerts have like particular formations. I mean, there's mosh pit and there's wall of death, and there are different like there's a movement, and they are places of risk essentially. I was recently reading like an essay on kind of history of mosh pit, but also like how it's negotiated and how essentially either like women, but also non-binary people experience the mosh pit and so on, because there's no, like, it's dark and people might be intoxicated. They're also aggressive and sweaty and kind of like deranged, and there's a liminal space that's created. And at the same time, like one of the kind of advantages of, or like the reason why people are attracted to the mosh pit is because it is a release mechanism. And because it has a sort of risk and danger associated with it that people are thrilled by. And so then it's a question like, how do you negotiate that? And then kind of like being in it, and there are understandings of like the people around take a certain position, like the people around the mosh pit like kind of stand in a particular way so that it's a soft landing. And then also, you know, there are kind of like situations, like kind of defined extreme situations, which if somebody falls, you stop. Like, so it's like this sort of thinking just brought into mind that like safety guidelines, which is another thing, is like safe spaces have safety guidelines. That's kind of the rule book. They also often kind of deal with, or can deal with, situations of heightened stress or risk. Like it doesn't have to be that the safety guidelines only deal with a kind of base like situation of total you know, safety, or like unheightened unemotional state where like, yes, this is how we define that it's completely safe. But it's like, okay, if you heighten it, you know, what's the new definition? If you heighten it again, what's the new definition? And maybe it gets narrower, like the things that you can do get narrower when you, like, if you fall in a mosh pit, it stops, like it, you know. So, but yeah, it just came to mind also, I guess because it's related also, I guess, in noise scene, and it happens, yeah.
But it's just also short. Sorry. Yeah, but because also what you were saying, and also in the sense of safe space, it also reminds me of the BDSM practice. That there is also this idea of creating a safe space, but the boundaries of what you're doing can also be like cross, and they also use safe words for you know, crossing this, because it's also about pain, and what is painful for you, maybe it's not painful for me, and then it's also all the time a negotiation. And I would say also in that sense, it's like a safe space is not something that is static. It's also all the time a negotiation, and it's all the time about consent, but it's something dynamic for sure.
I also just wanted to add to what you said. I mean, there's a reason why people who do highly risky stuff try to communicate as much as possible, because that's exactly what happens, that if you do risky stuff, you have to communicate more.
But you know, the mosh pit, to come back to this, is coming back to the questions of what happened in the 80s, 90s, mosh pits, because I was doing mosh pits. It was we didn't care about how we call it. We call it pogo in France, but it was not at all defined. And that's what you're saying. And I think today we tend to organize this, but it came from a more chaotic moment that was created as a sort of like part of the punk movement, and then regenerate in the 90s. But it was never like defined as a safe space or some kind of rules that is more clear now. It was not clear, but it was kind of, there was still the caring thing, but it was not defined. So, but what I'm trying to say to you in reaction to what you're saying is, I think some of this experience of crowd and performances and chaos come from have like an history and then a built up to arrive to the question of how we those rules, are pushed forwards and developed. But they're going through moments of chaos where you don't know what's the rules, because there's no rules.
I feel like more that there is rules, but it's maybe not talked about if we have the same rules going in. You might know a mosh pit as, you go in and you can do whatever you want, and other people would say no, you have to pick up people that are on the floor, and maybe it wasn't talked that much, but I think it was never ruled as per se. Even if it's not, as you said also before, there's always rules, maybe not speaking out rules, but I think that there were always rules. I think we're now in a time where people really like to talk about the rules, but I wouldn't say that before it was with no rules.
I think it's interesting. I was just thinking about the mosh pit as well, and this idea of people falling in the mosh pit or in any situation, that there has to be rules for people to think about picking somebody else up, because for me that would be just care, actually. And my own experience of going to those kind of gigs was that there was a certain amount of awareness, even in all the chaos of the people around you, so that you weren't banging your heads on each other, etc. So there was a certain amount of care and awareness that was happening, and I'm not sure if that's rules or just the fact that people care. But we have a society that has been pushing people not to care and to think only of themselves, and so then we come to this situation where we have to create rules to people to be reminded to care, which is not a very good place to be.
Yeah, it's like the smoking ban. It's something very strange if you live it, especially in countries where people don't like the idea of having rules. But for example, in France, there were a year where people, the governments and they say you get organized to care about the others. We don't put any rules, and then we see how it goes. And the people who smoked, they didn't care. They're like, well, okay, whatever. And then, but they had a year to maybe experiment, maybe put a room with smokers, and and despite people like suffering, it's like, hey, I'm suffering, and they're like, I don't care, that's my liberty. Yeah, but I'm suffering from it. It's you don't care. No, I don't care because it's my liberty. But and then the rules came in because no one cared. That's come back to this issue of why there is rules are being put in place, and then it's pushing the society, pushing to care, not care. So it's interesting. So what we're doing, with Mediamesse, rules, no rules, caring.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We think about. Maybe we make a pause or we are finished. I don't know. No, we are finished. Now is more things happening. Sorry. Now is idle, and after there will be the Oanda people project presenting. but we make a pause now.
Okay.
No, of 10 minutes at least, or 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.